Jasodanandana Brajagana Ranjana Jasodanandana Brajagana Ranjana Yamunatira Banachari Jamunatira Banachari Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Jai Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Rashtrajade Satarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So, uh, so Srila Prabhupada has come back to India and he's brought just a few disciples. He's being recognized officially by certain members of Gaudiya Math, and he's being recognized by the newspapers, and he's being welcomed by certain wealthy families into their home. And so the process is starting of preaching Krishna consciousness in a land that is actually traditionally, India is the home of the Vedas, home of Bhagavad-Gita, home of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and certainly the place of the pastimes of so many avatars, including Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But still, despite that, we should not be too surprised in the age of Kali. We should not be too surprised that unfortunately that became covered. That's what Maya does. Everyone is eternally a servant of Krishna, eternally, constitutionally, Nitya Swarup. But it becomes forgotten. It's never lost, but it becomes forgotten. So Srila Prabhupada used to say, even in the United States, sometimes he'd be interviewed even on a television program. Why have you come here to the United States? He says, I've come here to remind you, teach you about that which you have forgotten. So even in the West, he considered that God consciousness is a quality of human civilization versus animal civilization. So he has come to remind us of what we've forgotten. What to speak of India? What to speak of India? So, Prabhupada saw no need to fabricate a special program for the social problems of Calcutta. Chanting Hare Krishna, the only panacea for all material diseases. The question was how best to use his American disciples to give this panacea to the Indians. Prabhupada had his party of 10 devotees, and he had asked his leaders in the West for 20 more within a month. So what happened is so many more, and this will be in the book, of course, but so many devotees in Europe and the United States, they decided who would come. And I think Guru Das Prabhu probably helped arrange that along with Shyam Sundar. Prabhupada had his party of 10 devotees. He had ordered $60,000 worth of books and magazines from Dai Nippon. It's a printing company in Tokyo. And his sannyasis were going daily into the streets to perform kirtan. The Sankirtan party was getting a good response. Shaven-headed Westerners wearing sikas, Vaishnav tilak, and saffron robes, playing kartals and mridangas, chanting Hare Krishna with heart and soul, quoting Sanskrit verses from Bhagavad-Gita, affirming Lord Krishna to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For the Bengalis, this was sensational, and hundreds would gather to watch in the streets. Prabhupada knew the great appeal his disciples would have. Everyone would want to see them. He therefore affectionately called them his dancing white elephants. These same devotees who had grown to love chanting Hare Krishna in the streets of San Francisco, Los Angeles, and New York were now going into an exhausting heat, never accompanied in America, and chanting on Dalhousie Square for several hours daily. Crowds would press in closely, sometimes teasing, laughing, or scoffing, but more often looking on with deep amazement. So there's many sub-stories, so to speak, which give an indication of what was going on in the Hare Krishna movement. So Srila Prabhupada had established Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message, and therefore devotees were going into the streets of London, New York, Los Angeles, so forth. But sometimes we take for granted something a little bit that's actually not true. That somehow or other, Western devotees, they're amazed. Okay, the Bengalis are amazed that the devotees are chanting Hare Krishna, and they're from the West. But don't you think the people in New York City and London were also amazed that they're seeing their countrymen chanting Hare Krishna, ladies wearing saris, wearing tilak? They didn't take this to be at all a hippie activity. No, this was a very serious calling out the names of God, dancing very nicely and attracting people to come to the temple and hear about Krishna. And yet these were people who had, in many cases, been to college or were planning to go to school but decided to change their plan. They were from well-to-do families. There is some kind of a historical misunderstanding in many cases that the origin and therefore even the actual source of devotees, bhaktas and bhaktins to the Hare Krishna movement came through the hippies. That's not true. The hippie movement was very strong during that time, and certain people were affected to some degree. But the fact of the matter is people came from all kinds of backgrounds. And even if you look at the original devotees living at 26 2nd Avenue, all of them had had college experience or had degrees or had jobs or had jobs at the time that they took initiation. So there's some misunderstanding. So they're looking here at young people who, according to Satsrup Maharaj's description, who are these Westerners? This is amazing. Where do they come from? Why are they chanting Hare Krishna? But the exact same questions were being asked in their home countries. Who are these people? Why are they chanting Hare Krishna? Why are they dressed like that? The same question, the same phenomena, because it was not American culture, it was not English culture, it was not Australian culture to chant in the streets. So all of it is amazing. And there once was a Japanese television station, and they sent a reporter. They had a reporter in New York City all the time. And he came to our temple. I was in New York at the time. This was 1969. And they wanted to report and film with cameras the devotees going out chanting, taking prasadam, offering, having Bhagavatam class. They were recording all this. And they found it very interesting. So at one point, one of the cameramen was just following me around, whatever I was doing. And I was just doing needful things around the temple. And finally he said, I have to ask you, because we became friendly. He said, what do your parents think about this? And I said, yes, that's a good subject. Because very rarely do the parents of the devotees understand or agree. Historically, we know in India, many great personalities left their homes to become devotees of Krishna. But they did not do it with full permission, let's say. There were some social, emotional feelings of their children leaving them, isn't it? As a matter of fact, if we were just to, at that time, let's say, or even today, if we were to take any person in India, just name some person who's a movie star, or anyway, any person, and we say, imagine if their son or daughter became a devotee today and was out on the streets with mridanga and kartals chanting. How would they feel? Because socially, this is not typical. This is not a typical thing. And they might feel embarrassed. They may feel betrayed by their children that they did not follow. Maybe a father was thinking, my son was going to become a doctor, and now he's doing this. He's given his life. So when we're seeing these devotees out in the street chanting Hare Krishna in Dalhousie Street or anywhere in India or anywhere in the world, we're not seeing something we should take for as common. Oh yes, they were chanting Hare Krishna. No, they came from good families and they decided to dedicate their life. So this Japanese man said, what did your parents think? He asked me, and I said, here, I'll write down their telephone number and address. You go ask them. And my parents lived in a suburb of Chicago. It was a very well-to-do suburb. And you might have heard of the politician Hillary Clinton. She went to my high school. I saw her in the halls of my school. So before she was a politician, she was only in school. This is high school level. So, where it's, what do you call, 15th and 16 standard? Like, what is it called? Up to 12. Up to 12. Excuse me. So like that. So they went and called my parents. They said, you can come. They filmed the house, big house, and they were flabbergasted. And everyone talked, and there was some I never saw the show. It was produced in Japan. But I heard devotees who watched it in Japan, devotees. Anyways, it happened. And my parents were very nice and whatever. About a year, 2 years later, I'm out on Fifth Avenue chanting Hare Krishna. And I meet this man. Okay? And we recognized each other. I don't know how I did it because I have this bad attitude. All Japanese, they look the same. I can't tell the difference. But we recognized each other. And it's typical in Japan, we both bowed. He bows, I bow on the street. And then we talk and there's usual chatter. How are you? What back and forth. And finally he gets very, very serious. And he goes, because I said, you saw my family, right? He goes, well, yes, I saw your family. You have very nice family. Why you left your family? He's challenging me. He's very upset. Your mother wants you home. You see, this is a typical phenomena in spiritual life. The renunciation, the spiritual master comes to cut attachments for higher purpose. These devotees, we do not take them for granted that they have come. Oh yeah, we can get you. Prabhupada has dozens of devotees. He can just send for them and they'll run out on the street and chant. No, they're doing their spiritual master's bidding. He asks them to go, they go. Because they have accepted him and they've accepted the Shastra. Okay. And therefore they want devotional life. They want to engage in bhakti-yoga. So it's not a natural thing in the sense of materialistically natural. It's a supernatural thing that this occurrence was going on. So it states here that the people of Bengal, they were very impressed, but at the same time confused. At the same time, maybe they were making fun of them. Maybe they scoffed at them and said this, said that. The same thing in the United States. Some people are admiring. Sometimes we would end a long kirtan and people would applaud as if it was very nice. They would applaud. And some people were thinking, this is crazy. Who are these people? So this is an eternal principle. Some people are attracted, some people are repulsed. It has not just to do with India. It has to do with all spirit souls. These same devotees who had grown to love chanting Hare Krishna in the streets of San Francisco, Los Angeles, or New York were now going into an exhausting heat. So we used to chant for so many hours. Prabhupada's idea was that when India saw young Western people adopting the principles of Krishna consciousness, the faith of the Indians in their own culture would increase. Prabhupada explained to his disciples how formerly, during the time of Maharaj Yudhisthira, India had been a Krishna conscious state. For the last 1,000 years, however, India had been under foreign subjugation, first under the Mughals and then under the British. As a result, the intelligentsia, and to a lesser degree, the masses of India, had lost respect for their own culture. They were now pursuing the materialistic goals of the West, and they saw this as a more productive and more practical than religion, which was only sentimental. Westerners living in renounced Vaishnava, can't read here in this light, as renounced Vaishnavas could, as Prabhupada was well aware, turn the heads and hearts of the Indians and help them regain faith in their own lost culture. It was not a material tactic, however, but a spiritual strength. Prabhupada stressed that the devotees must be pure in their actions. This purity would be their force. So this principle of coming to the India with Western devotees, practicing Krishna consciousness and turning the heads and the hearts, as described here, was Srila Prabhupada's plan. Prabhupada used some pretty gross language to us and in his lectures, even in India, about Indians who had taken too much shelter in Western ideas. Their translation, given up Krishna. Okay, they'd given up God. They've given up Dharma because they thought somehow or other that was less. Somehow or other that was less. And so Prabhupada used to talk about the second crows. He said the first crow, that's like the West. They was talking about Western countries, like a crow. They come for some garbage on the street, and then they try to eat it, and then after some time they realize they don't really like this, and they fly away. You heard the second crow idea? So he said that's like a lot of Americans. They realize, no, I must take up God consciousness somehow or other. I have to. This materialistic concept of life is inadequate. I must search for more. I must look to India, perhaps. I must look to a spiritual master. I must take seriously some concept of approaching God in humility. So there was this idea. So that's like the first crow. He goes and he tries to eat the garbage, and he says, no, I leave the garbage. I want to leave the materialistic way. But then a second crow comes and sees what's left, and he tries to enjoy that. So Prabhupada would laugh. He'd say, sometimes Indian people, they admire the materialism too much of the West, and they're like the second crow. The first crow has already given it up. The first crow has said, no, I don't want it. And so many people in the West, they're trying to admire Indian culture, but people in India are trying to admire Western culture. So it's the second crow. He's still trying to enjoy, even though the first crow realized this is not good enough. So Prabhupada was employing that process of showing that even the Westerners, they have everything, but they also know there's something missing. So please take note. This was his plan. And I was in a Murtiwala shop in Loy Bazaar a few years ago, and I noticed some stones inside, different types of marble and different types of granite. And when I had been working on the Samadhi Mandir here, the construction here in the late 80s, I became very familiar with it. So it became a thing in my mind. So I went in to ask him about these different stones. And he knew I was a devotee, of course, could tell immediately. And he had a picture of Prabhupada on the wall. And he says, you know, your Guru Maharaj, he had a plan. He's telling me. I did not prompt him. I didn't give him any hints. And I says, yeah. He says, yes, I have. I said, yeah, you have a beautiful store here with murtis of Krishna. And he says, yes, because Indians want the ISKCON standard of Shringar. They want a high standard. They want a better standard. And I also have another shop in another bazaar in Vrindavan, and I also have a shop where? In Dubai. Because there's a lot of Indian people who live in Dubai. He has a murti shop in Dubai. And he says, yes, because now people of India are taking seriously puja, and they want to have Thakurji, and they want to decorate. And therefore, my line of business is flourishing. And then he said, this is because of Prabhupada. This was his opinion. This is because he came and he reminded us and he encouraged us to do what all of our ancestors always did. He encouraged us to get back on track. So this is interesting because I didn't hint at anything. I didn't give him any hint. These are all from his mouth that he told me these things. So, yes, this is the birthplace of the appearance place of so many avatars, including Swayam Bhagavan Sri Krishna, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so many saintly persons. And therefore, the way of life, the Dharma, that should be a natural process. People here should just set the standard. They don't have to be proud. They don't have to be nationalistic. All they have to do is perform what Shastra instructs, what the Mahajans have shown us, and the whole world will see the example and they'll want to participate automatically. It's like brothers and sisters. They'll see, oh, just see. This is a wonderful thing. So this is what Srila Prabhupada wanted. That was his plan, and he was capable of fulfilling it. That's the wonderful thing. Westerners living as renounced Vaishnavas could, as Prabhupada was well aware, turn the heads and hearts of the Indians. The chanting in Dalhousie Square and along Chowringhee, I believe, had gone on for about 10 days when Prabhupada decided to stop it. The street kirtan, although an excellent method for preaching, was not the most effective method for India, he said. There were many professional kirtan groups in Bengal, and Prabhupada didn't want his disciples to be seen like that, as professional performers or beggars. So you might be familiar with this. Some people, they dress up as sadhu types, and then they'll chant, maybe perform, dance very dramatically. It's more like a dance group or a dramatic group, and they'll be very impressive, and then they'll want some money. He wanted them to preach in a way that would bring them closer to the most respectable Indians, and he unfolded his new plan. He called it life membership. His disciples would invite Indians interested in supporting and associating with ISKCON to become members. A membership fee of 1,111 rupees would entitle the member to many benefits, such as copies of Srila Prabhupada's books and free accommodation in ISKCON centers around the world. Speaking one evening in a private home before a group of wealthy businessmen, Prabhupada initiated his life membership program. After lecturing, he invited his audience to become ISKCON life members, and several Calcutta merchants immediately agreed. B.L. Jaju, this is what he says: I was really overwhelmed by the simplicity of Prabhupada's nature. He told me how he had been carrying on his regular business when his guru told him that for 400 years back, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had said that Hare Krishna, or rather he says, of course, backwards, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, would be chanted all throughout the world. He said that that was the job given to him by his spiritual master, and that he would have to go to America to do it. I found no snobbery in him. He was very simple, and he was telling as if he was my brother. Simply how he went to USA, how he started, and how gradually he planned to have his Krishna consciousness, this Krishna consciousness, throughout the world. Seeing his disciples who had changed their lives, I began to think, why not I? In my humble way, I should do something without worrying what other people are doing. I found that imperceptibly he was affecting my life. My wife and even my son were really surprised when they found that there were white people who we thought would never return to Krishna consciousness had changed so much. So we thought we also must try to follow better the teaching of the Gita. So this phenomena of encouraging people, they may not be able to come to a temple, they may not be able to participate very much, but maybe they can just give a little money, then they can get Srila Prabhupada's books, which are the basis. And if they can read the books, it will change their life. So Prabhupada knew how important it was. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had said that printing of books was the big mridanga. Even more widespread and more effective, specifically than Sankirtan on the street, was the printing of books and distributing them. So Prabhupada effectively came up with a plan by which people could take shelter of Srila Prabhupada's books. And I wanted to mention that earlier there was reference to Jayapataka Swami Maharaj and Achyutananda Swami. They had greeted Srila Prabhupada at the airport when he arrived at Dum Dum Airport. They were the only two devotees in India at the time. And Achyutananda had come several years earlier. Why did he come earlier? Because in the United States, a war was going on with Vietnam, and he had been drafted by the military. He was being pressed, as they used to say. He was being forced to join the military. He had no choice. He had to go. So Prabhupada said, just go to India, disappear, and take shelter of Sridhar Swami's. That's the Devananda Mat. Okay, that's Sridhar Swami's Mat. Yeah. So he did that. He came here all by himself. He was very renounced. And he did take sannyas. He asked Srila Prabhupada, we read that he and Jayapataka could take sannyas, and they did. So I met Achyutananda Swami on the banks of the Ganga in 1974 when I was visiting India, and he was still here. The war in Vietnam was still going on. He could not return to the United States. Even if he did, he would be arrested. So I didn't know all this. So I said, Maharaj, we really like your class. Why don't you come and join us in New York? Come be with us. And he goes, and he was standing there at this danda, and he says, Aham felon. Felon means a criminal. I am a criminal. If I go back home, they'll put me in jail. So he had been so determined. He came here by himself. He didn't just think, there were other ways to disappear. You could go to Canada, you could go to Mexico or something crazy. He went to India, and he learned so many things. He shared with us his songbook that he put together. He was a great preacher. So this process, this is a story about Prabhupada. So we're talking about Prabhupada. So I also faced the same problem in, I guess it was sometime in 1970. And I got a notice from the government. You must report to the military immediately. So I told Srila Prabhupada about this. I thought he was going to tell me to go to India. Whatever Srila Prabhupada told me, I would do. He said, no, I will write them a letter. I will write your draft board, as it's called. I will write the military a letter. Would you like me to read the letter that Prabhupada wrote to the government? It's an amazing, just shows you what the spiritual master can do. And because he sent it to Ananda. He said, no, you go to India, you join Sridhar Swami. Instead, he wrote a letter. Taking a while to pop up. Oh, come up. It'll come. Okay. He says, this is to certify that he gives my name, my Karmi name, and then in parentheses, Toshan Krishna Das, Brahmachari, is my bona fide initiated student. He is being trained under me to become an ordained minister of religion in Krishna consciousness, God conscious society. And he is studying regularly the following books: Bhagavad-Gita as it is, Srimad Bhagavatam, the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, and other allied literatures. My initiated students are strictly forbidden to indulge in the following principles of degradation: all forms of intoxication, including coffee and cigarettes, alcohol. He's writing this to the government. The eating of animal foods, such as meat, fish, and eggs. Rather, their diet consists of prasadam, especially offered foodstuffs, vegetarian. Unmarried sex indulgence, 4, gambling or idle sports of any sort. Their lives are dedicated to serving God, and as such, they have no time to squander on unbeneficial activities or non-godly activities. Some of my students have been classified as 4D class. Okay, he wrote this letter. I thought the funniest line, though, this is their lives are dedicated to serving God, and as such, they have no time to squander on unbeneficial activities or non-godly activities. He's directly challenging the military of the United States. They have no time to squander with you. So a copy was sent to me, and I thought, okay, wow. The draft board sent me a notice. Everything's okay. I don't have to join. Prabhupada's letter did it. Prabhupada convinced the United States government not to take his disciple. So I had that benefit. Different people have different paths to take. And Chudananda, he was in India and had served Prabhupada so nicely, but under the circumstances of having initially to certainly escape. And it's there that he and Jai Pataka served Srila Prabhupada and he took sannyas. And there are some other activities that he engaged in during this time that are in a book he wrote, Blazing Sadhus, in which he explains some of his early pastimes and austerities, because you have to realize that they were living on a piece of property that it had no electricity whatsoever. They will pump their water, and that's it. No punka, no fan, not even a light. So they were going through very serious austerities for Srila Prabhupada. So again, he came from a very nice family, and he was a musician. And his mother had a beautiful apartment in a very expensive part of New York City. We're not talking about people just coming from so-called hippie background. He definitely went and searching in different paths. Do you know what, Chudananda? He was the first one to realize that Prabhupada was cooking for the devotees every day in the very beginning. And he was the first one to think, you know what? No one's thinking to wash the pots. In the very beginning, people would come in, they would take prasadam, they would hear a little lecture from Prabhupada. This was in his apartment, not even in the temple. And they would take lunch, prasadam, and then they would go. And he realized no one's washing the pots for Prabhupada. So he started. Takes a little time for people to wake up. And they started engaging in that seva. And by his example, no doubt, a lot of other people started realizing, yes, Swamiji needs help. You can't just take from him, you have to serve him. So that was wonderful. So Manjari, my wife, has a wonderful reading from a book from one of Srila Prabhupada's disciples, and she can explain the details of what was going on with the devotees when they first came to India, because they ended up going to the Devananda Mat in Navadvip. And we have firsthand information how the devotees in the Mat saw the devotees for the first time. I think that's a very interesting story.
Well, I should read a little bit. Okay. Namaste Shabdaya Krishna Sai Buddha Shrimati Bhakti-Vedanta Swami. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Patsachate Jai Srila Prabhupada. Okay. So Okay, we're talking about life membership. And then, so the book says, from Prabhupada's first day in Calcutta, he had thought of going to Mayapur, the sacred birthplace of Lord Chaitanya. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, father of Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master and pioneer in spreading Lord Chaitanya's teachings beyond India, had longed for the day when Americans and Europeans would join with their Bengali brothers in Mayapur, chanting the holy names. Prabhupada wanted to purchase land to establish a Mayapur center for his Western disciples and fulfill the dream of his spiritual predecessors. So he had written to one of his godbrothers, I wish to go to Mayapur to pay my respects to our beloved spiritual master, His Divine Grace Sri Srila Prabhupada, as well as to complete the purchase of the land. So if Jagamohan Prabhu will accompany us to finish this transaction, it will be very kind of him, and I hope you will kindly request him to accompany us. So Jagamohan Prabhu is um, a rich man from Calcutta who did much service in the Gaudiya Math. But that didn't happen, I guess. I'm not sure. But they didn't get the land. So Prabhupada had been in 1967. He had gone to Mayapur with Achyutananda Prabhu, and he had asked Achyutananda to get land in Mayapur. So we're looking at 3 years later. And then Prabhupada said, this is dragging on for 3 years, that Achyutananda had not gotten the land. So Srila Prabhupada decided to go, and he took the devotees on a train, and they went to Navadvip. So you all know, Navadvip is across the river from Mayapur, and they stayed at the Devananda Gaudiya Math. Now, why would he stay at the Devananda Gaudiya Math? Does anybody know? Okay, then the Mahant of the Devananda Gaudiya Math is Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj. So, who is Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj? Yes, he was Srila Prabhupada's friend and Srila Prabhupada's sannyas guru. Not only that, but in 1940, Srila Prabhupada was one of the founding members of the Gaudiya Vedanta Samiti, which was the Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj's, that's the name of his organization, like ISKCON is the name of Prabhupada. So that's the Gaudiya Vedanta Samiti. And Prabhupada was one of the 3 people who were founding members of that. He was requested by Srila Keshav Maharaj, who was his good friend, and so he became. And so he had very close relationship with Srila Keshav Maharaj, and that's why he chose the Devananda Gaudiya Math. It was also a big math. It's right across from the Manipuri Maths in, if you know Navadvip, that's where it is. So he went there, and they stayed for some time, few days, and then the rain started. And the rains in Mayapur were very heavy. So it was raining, 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 and they really couldn't go. And they ended up staying there for 2 weeks. So there were 17 devotees, and they stayed for 2 weeks. And so I'm going to read you a little story from a devotee who was there. So this book is Srila Prabhupada, A Friend to All. These are interviews with people who knew Srila Prabhupada before he went to the West. And they were Prabhupada's associates and friends. But this particular devotee it's talking about when he came back from the West. So the reason he's included in this book is because he's also giving information of Prabhupada, what Prabhupada did before. So um, the author of this book is Mula Prakriti, my god sister Mula Prakriti. And she traveled all over India for 8 years. And she interviewed everybody she could find who knew Srila Prabhupada before he went to America. And it looks like there were lots of people, a whole book of people, lots of people who knew Srila Prabhupada. And so she interviewed them, and their stories are, some are short stories, some are longer, but their stories are in here. So this is the story of Sripad Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj. Here he is. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. Who knows Srila Prabhupada's sannyas name? No, it's not. Who knows? Guess again. Srila Prabhupada's sannyas name. It's very important. It's like really important that all ISKCON people know it. I'll tell you why. No, that was Abhay Charanaravinda was his initiated name from his guru before he took sannyas. So his sannyas name is Swami Maharaj. In the Gaudiya Math, they have 108 sannyas names. Goswami is one of them. So this devotee is Goswami Maharaj. But Srila Prabhupada, he's Swami Maharaj. Now, why is he Bhaktivedanta? Because a group of the disciples of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, his godbrothers, they bestowed this name on Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktivedanta. And so it's an honorific given name. No, it was when he was still a householder, I think, before he took sannyas. So he's Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj. But there's another thing. Srila Prabhupada put AC, right? AC Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj. And he insisted on that. And no, I'm not sure why, but one reason is that everybody in the line of Srila Bhakti Pragyankesha Maharaj, when they take sannyas, they are Bhaktivedanta something. So we have Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj, Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj, Bhaktivedanta Trivikram Maharaj, Bhaktivedanta Vaman Maharaj. Everybody in that line. And so there are dozens. And even after that, they continue it. Everybody in the line is a Bhaktivedanta something. There are dozens and dozens of Bhaktivedantas. And there's only 108 sannyas names. Likely somebody will be a Swami Maharaj. They haven't done that, but they could. But Prabhupada is AC Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj. So a little distinguished. So we can distinguish. Uh-huh. Yeah. And so because people in ISKCON don't know this, then they do dumb things. Like, for example, the Bhaktivedanta Swami Gurukul dropped the Swami. That's Prabhupada's sannyas name that they just dropped. They call it the Bhaktivedanta Gurukul now. You know, that was just because of ignorance. And some people in Bombay, they tried to sue the Bhaktivedanta Institute. Oh, I think it was the Bombay Temple. Anyway, and saying that everything that has the word Bhaktivedanta on it belongs to ISKCON. Does that include the whole Devananda Gaudiya Math? You cannot say that. It's a silly thing, and it's due to ignorance. So, anyway, that's just a little bit about Prabhupada's name. Oh dear. Okay. So, this, he says, we disciples of Srila Bhakti-Pragan Keshav Goswami Maharaj had heard all about his godbrother, Abhay Babu, who later became Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, and we knew the history of his relationship with our Gurudev. So the Gurudev is Bhakti Pragan Keshav Maharaj, and Srila Prabhupada had a close friendship with him. When Srila Keshav Maharaj left this world, Prabhupada offered this prayer. Do you know the prayer to Sanatana Goswami? Vairaga Yuga Bhakti Rasam Priyatnayar Payayam Anabipshumanam Kripambhutirya Paradukaduki Sanatanam Tam Prabhu Mashrayami. He offered almost the exact same prayer, but he put in the name of Srila Keshav Maharaj. So in this way he honored Keshav Maharaj when he left this world. So in Mathura, Kunjabi Hari Prabhu, another exalted godbrother and disciple of Bhakti Pragan Keshav Maharaj, used to help when Swami Maharaj, that's Srila Prabhupada, needed rupees to purchase paper to write his books. He also gave Srila Swami Maharaj money to help him purchase spices and herbs for a brain improvement medicine that Swami Maharaj made using cloves and some other ingredients. Remember, Prabhupada was a pharmacist. They made hundreds of packets to sell to the college students, telling them that they would do very well in their studies if they took this tonic. They sold up to 60 packets every day, and the rupees they earned were used for writing expenses. They did this together for 3 years before Swami Maharaj took sannyas. Narayan Maharaj was also close friends with both Swami Maharaj and Kunja Bihari in those days. So when Srila Prabhupada, he says, when Srila Prabhupada came to the mutt in 1970, he came with 17 devotees. And he remembers Achyutananda and Tamal Krishna. And so he said he was the storekeeper at the time, and they came during the rainy season. And Srila Swami Maharaj had a big tape recorder that constantly played a recording of his students singing the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra so that everyone could hear. He also gave a pravachan wherein he explained his preaching in the Western countries. Several times during his lectures and also in the kirtans, I saw how he was closing his eyes and tears were falling. Many times I saw him with deep feelings like this. Swami Maharaj told me lovingly, "Oh, Nikunja, you should always go with my disciples to the market and other places. You help them in their preaching. Go to the station, do Hari Kirtan." And there was one sannyasi disciple of Swami Maharaj, an American history professor, used to go on the morning walk, and he was somewhat lame. Swami Maharaj asked me to help him preach. And so he would help the devotees in so many ways. And then mosquitoes were biting the devotees. And Srila Prabhupada went to him and he said, "The mosquitoes are biting. Can you help them?" So he went to the market and he purchased 17 mosquito nets and he gave them. And then in the night, late at night, Srila Prabhupada said, "Do they know how to use the mosquito nets?" So he said, because they say the mosquitoes are still biting. So then Nikunja goes in to the room where the devotees are, and he sees them. They've taken the mosquito nets and they used it like a blanket, and they wrapped up their bodies in a mosquito net. And so the little mosquitoes were still biting them. And so he had to show them how to put up the mosquito nets, with the rope and everything. And so then they were able to do that after that. And so when they're departing, he says, No, I think, but what the way they've understood it is so beautiful.
You should announce. I'm sure you'll all be happy to know that Devi Shakti Mataji will be coming back next Sunday.
Yay! Haribo. Okay, so I remember that when they were departing, Swami Maharaj asked me if the train was running that day or not. All the devotees took prasad and prepared to go to the train station. Swami Maharaj said to Tamal Krishna, who was a Grihastha then, Tamal Krishna, Nikunja Prabhu and this mutt have offered us shelter and delicious food for 15 days. You should give them some donation. So later, Tamal Krishna, who was perhaps not so familiar with spending the Indian currency, gave me 10 rupees. Of course, this was a long time ago, but still 10 rupees. So at that time, I was thinking that the cost of providing for 17 people for 15 days, plus the expense of buying the mosquito nets, had been about 110 rupees. You can imagine my initial shock. But afterwards, I realized. So I'm telling this because, I mean, that was really dumb of Tamal Krishna. He didn't know, and he didn't do it properly at all. But I want you to hear the way they understood it. He said, but afterwards I realized that there was no harm in the matter. They were members of our family, so why should they give us anything? Trivikram Maharaj was also present there at that time. He inspired me to serve them with everything we had at our disposal. And now looking back, I realized that the 10 rupees was only like a down payment, since Swami Maharaj has given us all a great treasure. They then went to the station, arriving there very late. They were going to Calcutta. The station master was Nimai, the son of Srila Saraswati Prabhupada's disciple, Atindriya Prabhu, who compiled the Sri Gaudiya Kantahar. Swami Maharaj was given the first-class reception room so that he and his students could sit down. He spoke Harikatha to all of us at the station. At that time, he offered me one of his umbrellas, and we have kept it all this time to remember him. So this is Goswami Maharaj. He lives at the Devananda Gaudiya Mutt even now.
Show them the book again. It's available.
I think this book it's Sarga Thakur has it. I think it's in the Prabhupada's house. Srila Prabhupada, a friend to all. Good. By Mula Prakriti. Okay, thank you very much, Jai. Vanchakalpa Turubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna.